Sometimes, people's survival skills are tested in the most extreme ways. From animal attacks to withstanding the worst of nature, here are some amazing real-life survival stories. Number 8. Dolphin Ring. You've for sure heard about dolphins saving human beings from sharks, but rarely is it seen quite like it was for Rob Howes and his fellow female lifeguards, along with his daughter. In New Zealand, they were all swimming just 100 meters offshore when 7 dolphins suddenly appeared around them. They just started to circle around the group as they kept swimming. Aw, how cute. Eventually, Rob and one of the others went away from the swimmers and the dolphins. When they did, one dolphin followed them. He was confused as to why, until the dolphin went under the water beneath them. He decided to see what was going on. As he did, he was shocked to see a great white shark just below them, and the dolphin was warding it off. For the next 40 minutes, the dolphin stayed close to the humans until they got onto a boat that a lifeguard brought after he saw the shark. Rob actually didn't tell the others about the shark until they were saved. That way, they didn't panic as they tried to get to safety. Yeah, I would be glad he didn't tell me too. I came out of that water and I was stunned. I had no idea how to relay what had happened and how to deal with it, he said. Dolphins are so sweet, and this story can be added to the long list of stories about how dolphins save humans. Number 7. Aron Ralston. Aron Ralston is arguably one of the most famous survival stories of recent times. In 2003, Ralston was hiking alone in Bluejohn Canyon in Canyonlands National Park in southeast Utah. He was doing some climbing up and down rocks and canyons when the worst possible thing happened. His arm got pinned by a boulder that had fell on him. For the next 5 days, he survived off nothing but water and the snacks that he had on him. The reason he was holding out for so long was that he was hoping, beyond hope, that he would be able to get rescued by someone. But there were 2 problems with that hope. The biggest of which was that he didn't tell anyone where he was going in the canyon, and the place he was at was very remote. He knew that he had to do something or he was going to die there. So he went and did something absolutely crazy. He broke his arm and then amputated it in order to get free. A family found him while he was on his way back to his truck and were able to get him some help. If this story sounds familiar, maybe you saw the movie called 127 Hours that starred James Franco. Think about this. Would you cut your own arm off? Sounds pretty wild to me, but I guess if it came down to either dying there or cutting it off, I'd probably cut it off. This is why you don't go out into nature alone, or at least tell someone where you're going. Share your location. Aron Ralston went to extreme lengths to secure his freedom. Following his rescue, his severed arm and hand were retrieved by park rangers from beneath the boulder. The arm was cremated and returned to Ralston. A few months later, on his 28th birthday, he returned to the canyon and scattered the ashes where, he said, they belonged. Number 6. Sir Douglas Mawson. This particular tale is a little bit tricky, but it's still a tale of survival, no doubt. Mawson was an Australian geologist and explorer who infamously explored the frozen continent of Antarctica with a team of fellow adventurers in 1912. His explorations enabled Australia to claim some 2,500,000 square miles of the Antarctic continent. During the month of December, Mawson and 2 of his colleagues went out to do a 300-mile inland exploration of the continent to see what it was like, gather data and samples. But what was to follow was a tale of sorrow, horror, and survival. One of the men that was with them was a British soldier, and he fell down a crevice and took many of their dogs and supplies with him. This led to many hard decisions, using their rations sparingly and eventually eating the remaining dog. Mawson's companion ultimately died, and he was left to go at it alone. The irony of his quest, though, was that it was partially in vain, because though he did make it back to camp, he missed the ship that would have saved him fully by a few hours. However, his story kind of made him a hero. He was knighted and even put on the $100 bill of Australia. Yet many wonder what he really had to do to make it back. There are some rumors that he intentionally tipped the scales in his favor so that his companion would die first. No one knows for sure, but according to a new book by an award-winning historian, David Day, he suggests that Mawson deliberately starved his colleague to death and then boiled up his flesh and ate him. Number 5. Moro Prosperi. When you hear about someone getting lost in a desert, what first comes to my mind is someone hallucinating from the heat and dying of dehydration. It almost always ends badly in these kinds of situations, especially when that desert is the Sahara. But in the case of Moro Prosperi, he actually got famous because he survived it. Moro was a retired athlete and long-distance runner. A friend of his told him about the Marathon of the Sands in Morocco, a 6-day-long endurance race in one of the most dry and barren environments on the planet. Moro loves the challenge and decided to start training again so he could participate in the 1994 marathon. His wife, Cynthia, thought he was crazy. The race is so risky that you have to sign a form to say where you want your body to be sent in case you die. They had 3 children that were still very young, so she was worried. He tried to reassure her and said, "The worst that can happen is that I get a bit sunburnt." Unfortunately, a massive, violent sandstorm occurred during the event. Eventually, he found himself in a temple of all places. All that was inside was a corpse of a holy man and some bats. He had run out of food and water and resorted to drinking his own urine and eating at least 20 bats raw. But in a twist, the desert heat was too much, and his blood clotted and wounds formed up so that he couldn't die by the cuts he had made. He took that as a sign that he wasn't meant to die, and now suddenly, with a desire to live, he went and walked again through the desert. 9 days went by until he stumbled upon a village which allowed him to be saved. Over the course of those 9 days, he lost 35 pounds, and his liver was almost a complete loss. But he was able to live, and eventually he went back in 2012 and did the Marathon of the Sands once again. Number 4. Jose Salvador Alvarenga. There are very few things as frightening as being lost adrift at sea. There have been many stories that have chronicled tales of people surviving this, but one of the most famous is that of Jose Salvador Alvarenga, who was not only lost at sea, but he spent 13 months there and lived. On November 17, 2012, Alvarenga set off on a professional fishing trip with a young fisherman named Ezequiel Cordoba. Having embarked from a fishing village on the Pacific coast of Mexico's southern Chiapas state, they planned to be out about 30 hours, hunting shark, tuna, and mahi. A storm came upon them and lasted for 5 days and blew them off course. They tried to radio for help, but the storm had knocked their gadget signal out. A rescue party was sent to search for them, but their boss thought they were surely dead. The two did what they could to eat, but eventually, Cordoba died, leaving Jose all alone. He didn't give up though, and for another 9 months, he remained on that boat trying to survive. Eventually, he saw an island and swam to it. It was the Marshall Islands. Once he reached the island, he got help and was later on praised for surviving what he did. His journey lasted 438 days, and his voyage is estimated to have covered between 5,000 to 7,000 miles. Number 3. Bear versus Lion. Robert Biggs was enjoying his day, hiking through the woods of California. As he was hiking, he saw a mother bear and her baby bear. He was wise enough not to try and provoke them, but rather just observe them. Unknown to him, he too was being watched, not by a bear, but a mountain lion. The mountain lion attacked him from behind while he was watching the bears. He grabbed me from behind and knocked me to the ground. I was on my knees. I had my rock pick out because I was on a steep incline, and I smashed the cat in the head with it. He screamed, but he didn't let go. The mother bear saw this happening, rushed in, and battled the mountain lion. The lion was no match for the bear, and after losing the fight, it ran back into the woods. The bear left Biggs alone, and he was able to leave with only a few scrapes from the attack. According to Biggs, it wasn't just a bear claiming its territory from the mountain lion. In his eyes, it was something more personal. I'm 100% sure it did want to save my life. We made eye contact. I'd seen the bears before, and I knew she knew who I was. Number 2. Ricky Mcgee. This particular horror story happened in 2006 and should be a lesson to all about the dangers of driving people around that you don't know. I guess we're not talking about Uber or Lyft. Ricky Mcgee was driving through the Australian outback on his way to a new job when he picked up a group of hitchhikers. All right, Ricky, that probably wasn't the best idea. The next thing he remembers is waking up in a shallow grave in the outback wilderness, with dingoes scratching at the plastic wrapped over him. Think about the mental pain and turmoil that he must have gone through when he realized what had happened to him. Not knowing where he was exactly in the outback, which is huge for the record, Mcgee had survived on his own for 71 days. The outback is known for its barren landscape, poisonous animals, and more. It's a big reason why many avoid it in Australia. He was in such danger that when he slept at night, he would put rocks around his shelter so that the dingoes wouldn't try and eat him while he slept. He was eventually found by construction workers of all things, and they were able to take him to a hospital. He lost 100 pounds in the incident. The story was so fantastic that even the police didn't believe him when he told it. Number 1. Hiro Onada. Not all survival stories are about being lost in the world unintentionally. During World War II, an Imperial Japanese Army intelligence officer by the name of Hiro Onada was given an order by his commanding officer before departing on a mission. That order? No surrender. This was given to him during the tail end of World War II, when the United States military was bearing down on Japan. Hiro decided to honor his commander's last order. He remained at his jungle post on an island in the Philippines for 29 years, refusing to believe that World War II was over. He had been caught in a time warp. He was one of the war's last holdouts, a soldier who believed that the emperor was a deity and the war a sacred mission. He survived on bananas and coconuts and sometimes killed villagers he assumed were enemies. In 1974, he finally surrendered and went home, which had turned into a futuristic world of skyscrapers, television, jet planes, and population and atomic destruction. Waiting for him was his former commanding officer to give him the official order to stand down. Thanks for watching. What did you think of these incredible tales of survival? Let me know in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye!